we all know that Christian Bale will put on weight. We all know that he will change his body. He did like lifted weights to get like a strong neck, shaved his head, eyebrows, put on like 45 pounds. He did all that stuff. But then on top of it, we had to do makeup, and with the great makeup artist, Greg Canham. And that became like a long process of 5 months, I think it took, of trying makeup, going back again, trying makeup. And I'll never forget the day where everything just lined up, where the makeup matched his character research and what he had done. And then he did the Cheney walk in the makeup, and I got like chills up and down my arm. And I was like, you're not playing Dick Cheney, you've just summoned Dick Cheney. Like, it felt like Dick Cheney was in the room, and everyone around us had the same feeling, like, this is the creepiest thing I've ever seen. It was an unusual experience for me. It really felt like Christian was a collaborator in making this movie, because also his research on Cheney was exhaustive. He kept bringing me information for the movie that I didn't know about, and he kept challenging me as the filmmaker and asking questions and beating me up, and as far as like what my interpretation of Cheney was. So when you mix that with his physical transformation, his research, the fact that he's playing it, he really became a major collaborator in this movie. It felt like he and I were working together. I had worked with Amy Adams on Talladega Nights years ago, and we almost cast her. She was one of our finalists for Anchorman, actually, and when she was very young. And we've always known that Amy is just a killer. She is as good as you get and can do anything. So Lynn was very tricky, because we all know that Lynn is a crucial part of the story. So I needed someone who was strong, who could also be kind of funny, because she's such an extreme character. She's kind of funny, but it also always had to be real. It always had to be based and grounded in reality. And when you really narrow that list down, there's about 3 or 4 actresses that jump out at you. And eventually, after some searching and playing around with a couple other ideas, it was like, it's Amy Adams. And from day one, it was just, she dialed into it. And I didn't even think of the fact that her and Christian have this great collaborative relationship until after she was cast. And then I realized that was a whole other bonus to it. The two of them are like a great, they're like Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. Like, they can, with a look, they know what each other's going to do. And so throughout the whole process, that was a whole added bonus, that I had these two great collaborators that were able to work together.
Much like before seeing The Big Short, I think my thought was, why? Why this story, and how do you even take this on? And like, what? What are you talking about? And again, just shocked at how he can turn these really big stories involving kind of outsized personalities and make them incredibly human, and also connect them to our situations today in a really amazing way that's not in any way browbeating or one-sided, or it's a political story, but it's also very much a story of this couple and this family and this person. Adam's written a script that takes into account these whole people and this whole person in Dick Cheney. That he is, he's a father, he's a striver, he's from a certain generation, and he's many, many, many things. He's not the one Darth Vader thing that we think of. That's a tiny portion of his life. And I think taking all that into account gets to the heart of this person in a really interesting way, and to the heart of the political system, the heart of the country, in a really interesting way. Christian is unrecognizable, truly. I mean, yes, there are the most incredible prosthetics and fat pads and wigs and whatever else, yes. But it is not just that. He is embodying Dick Cheney in a really amazing way. And, I mean, it's really unbelievable. And you just wouldn't know it's him. You just don't know it's him. It's pretty crazy. And he's lovely and really funny, and then as Dick is also very funny, but not as verbose, let's say. And it's pretty, the transformation has been incredible to see. Amy is, it's pretty incredible to watch her physicality change, and to suddenly, for this stunning woman to suddenly become this 71-year-old slight bobblehead. It's pretty incredible. Because of course, when I first heard any of this, I was like, what do you mean they're playing them from who to what, and what are you talking about? That's nonsense. And to watch these real transformations, physical and from the acting inside out, it's just unrecognizable. Adam is able to see the world and the through lines of these past events to now with a real clarity that's contagious. He takes things in. I mean, he's obviously funny. That's been clear from his early work through now. But he's also really heartful, you know. And they're all very human stories. And I think in this one, it shows the complexity of humans legislating and a great Shakespearean American tragedy, and the kind of Lear aspect to Cheney, and then at the same time he brings this really oddball flavor to the whole endeavor, and that's why, you know, unexpected things are constantly happening, and I think it'll keep everybody's interest at the very least.
The thing about Adam and this script is that the humanity and the heart and the wit that Adam has in a way that I don't think anybody else has gives you an experience that is so completely new and original and specific and sort of mind-blowing. No matter what your experience was of this time, what your memory of this, you know, even if it's something you think about every single day, you're going to have this completely original experience. I've had the privilege and challenge of playing real people in my career so far, and it's something that I always want to do. It's also terrifying. It's also, you know, when they're alive, it's a whole nother level. But I think, and you have a responsibility, but you always have a responsibility. And I think that responsibility as an actor, to me, is never to make that person a hero or a villain or likable or, you know, to find things that you, for this is, again, just for me, it's not about saying, you know, where are Liz Cheney and I similar. It's about just trying to find ways to tell the truth of the story. I think I may finish shooting this movie and never see Christian's face, actually, because he's here, you know, we get here very early in the morning right now too, but he's here so much earlier. We can never, ever, ever complain about being tired, because, I mean, you know, I just won't, because I have looked at the call sheet and I have seen what his call was. And so every time I've gotten to set, it's already happened, and when I leave, it's not been undone. And when I got to set on my first day and saw him, and I had seen a couple of like photographs from, you know, because they were shooting, and and this and some stills, and you know, I saw how incredible it was. But there was something about seeing it right there, how he looks. It's staggering. Lynn was an incredibly, there is quite a lot of charisma there, and you kind of want to be around her. You have that feeling. Amy has that quality, but I feel she's just imbuing Lynn with, you know, which is so perfect and right and truthful. I would say it's not, you know, it's they're helping us see Dick and Lynn. It's like they're really just, there's a tremendous feeling of accuracy, but also because they're such great actors, it's, of course, incredibly multidimensional and compelling. He's given you such solid ground to walk on, which does not always happen. He's so specific, he's so clear, that you can, there's a freedom when that happens, because you can trip and you can like take a step backwards, or you can try, you know, sort of walking sideways, and there's solid ground beneath you. You're not gonna fall into the abyss. And so as an actor, that, to me, that's the thing I always want more than anything, is to have someone who has a vision that is so strong and clear and specific, that everyone, from the cast to the crew, everyone, they're all going in the same direction, and they all want to be going in the same direction, and they know who to look to if they get a little lost.
I've gotten really fond of George W. from watching him on the internet and doing research on him. I've become very fond of him, and I find him very charming. And I think, in retrospect, with the current president, I think a lot of people find him sort of refreshing. But it is interesting. I mean, I really like him, but I see a lot of the what the story is saying is essentially that he was manipulated in some way, and it's yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think that he probably was to some degree, and I think by the second term he sort of got hip to the fact that he was being, you know, maybe a little manipulated, and I think he was probably upset about it. It seemed like he kind of started to fight back a little bit. I watched Will Ferrell, I watched James Brolin, I watched this guy, Steve Bridges, who used to imitate him. I was this guy, Frank, an Italian name. He was yeah, he was very good too. And then I stopped watching those, and I just watched George W. And that's all I've done since. But I wanted to watch The Impression, I wanted to watch everybody else. And there's some amazing people, Will Ferrell, Josh Brolin, Steve Bridges, amazing interpretations of Bush that are pretty formidable. But I then was trying to find my own way into it, and I guess the only thing that I could come at it with was I wanted to just find his innocence and accentuate his charm a little, and that's all I could kind of grasp onto, because it's been done pretty amazingly by other actors. So I didn't, it's a hard act to follow, but I couldn't help myself. It was like I had to try it out. I think because of Adam's comedic background, and what nobody realizes, I think, which I didn't realize, is that Adam's a real political junkie. So you combine that, and maybe that was his years from SNL, I don't know, but if you combine the political junkie with this great dexterous comic mind, you have a real point of view that's really interesting on this story, and a great take on it. I think that he's incredibly smart, and he has strong opinions about stuff. I mean, he's very compassionate. I think he's really compassionate about the human condition and about what these two terms did to America. And I think because of that point of view, I think he does have a strong emotional connection to this material. And he also is able to make fun of it. And he's this great comic mind that he can do that. So he comes at it from kind of this, lefty Woody Guthrie point of view, and this, again, making some of the best comedies I think ever made. Talladega Nights and Step Brothers are just like as good as it gets. Christian is what I call, and I mean this in the best way, the method psycho actor guy. So he's gained weight. He's doing the whole Daniel Day-Lewis thing. He's getting picked up at 2 a.m. And he's got kids, and he goes into hair and makeup for 4 hours. I think Carell does too, and I think Amy does too. I'm in the chair for, 2.5, 3 hours. And that's a lot for me, and I'm fidgety, I'm moving around, talking to people, looking at Bush, and yeah, it's a lot. I don't know how Christian Bale's doing it. He's a very patient man. Christian has an intensity that is really great for Chaney. It's a very, he's got a great kind of alpha male energy that is so good for Chaney, because Chaney was, behind the shadows a little bit, so it's interesting to cast a kind of an alpha male in as Chaney. I think it's a really fascinating piece of casting.
There's always a sense of joy with him. It's always, no matter, and I've worked on him on really silly stuff and some darker stuff too, but there's always a sense of joy to his directing. He wants everybody to feel part of it. He wants everyone to feel like they're partners in it. He's so smart, and he's very well read, and he's passionate. He cares deeply about all of the things that he's putting down on paper, all of the things he's saying, and but at the same time, he doesn't take himself too seriously. And I think that's reflected in his movies, because ultimately he lets the air out of things, even when they get very serious and sad or scary. He has a way of comedically letting the air out and giving the audience a breath before they can dive back into it. I don't know. He's got a special mind. But in a weird way, Adam would approach, I feel like working on Anchorman and working on The Big Short and working on Vice, while separate movies and very different tonally, there was always that sense of intense creative energy that he invited everyone to participate in making this thing as good as it could be. Apparently, he's a really good actor. He's great. You know, on The Big Short, we never worked together, so I didn't see him until we were doing press for the movie. And he's a delightful guy and very smart and funny and nice, but he's just, I'm not saying anything that anybody doesn't already know. He's so committed and so smart about the choices that he makes as an actor, and he doesn't, you never see him working too hard at it. He's just, he just does his preparation and then he's there. And he kind of makes it look easy. Amy did a small role on The Office way back, I think season 1. And I've been a huge fan of hers ever since then. She's never not good. She's more than good. She's always great. Sam Rockwell, I love him. I did a movie with him a couple of years ago. And again, we didn't have much to do on screen together, but I'm just a fan of all the different characters that he can play and how easily he just falls into these characters. And there's a real joy to him as a performer too. The hope is that somehow people can reflect on those times and somehow assimilate them into our world today, and to make some connections and to be thoughtful about, what, these people represented to the world then, and how that relates to our lives today.
I love the way Adam took this story and told this true story, but also broke it down in a way that anybody can understand it. I think that it should be a part of social studies classes for kids to be able to understand, because it really helped me to understand what happened. And the script is just brilliantly written with all of the life and the stories and the Shakespearean kind of moments that are inside of it. It's really, really profound. He did an amazing job. Colin, being a brilliant, very, very smart man, and being a general and have served our country so well, is being tasked to talk to the UN and, because of his trustworthiness, convince America that this is a real war. So it's a challenging position for him to be in, because he's always duty in country and serving the president. So I'm sure it was very, very challenging for him. Playing Colin Powell was something I never thought I'd even attempt to do or even imagine, but when talking to Adam, he convinced me that I could do it, and he had seen Gone Girl, and he thought maybe this is something you should try, and I wanted to sink my teeth into it and do the best that I could. So, but anytime I get a chance to play someone so strong, so powerful, that is always very, very intriguing to me. What sets us apart, first of all, is Adam McKay and his way of storytelling and how he tells the story. Because, to be honest with you, I don't think I could have or would have been interested in sitting through a movie about Cheney. But the way that he's telling the story, the way that it's so intriguing, these incredible moments, it really is poetic and melodic, and it's something that is it's just a cinematic feat that only Adam could pull off. This man has always been an actor that loses himself in a role, and he's unrecognizable, and the performance is so spot on. It's so incredible. He looks just like him, And just being in the room, I found myself in a couple of moments when I was off camera just staring at him, even missed the line where I was staring, just lost in the performance. It's just brilliant.